Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 1. Observing the armies on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Text 1. Dhritarashtra Vacha Dharmaksheta Kurukshetre Samaveta Yutsavaha Mamaka Pandavas Kim Akurvata
Sanjay.
Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do?
Text 2. Sanjaya Vacha Dishtva tu Pandavanikam Vyutam Duryodhanastada Acharyam Upasangamya Raja Vachanam Abravit.
Sanjaya said, O king, after looking over the army arranged in military formation by the sons of Pandu, King Duryodhana went to his teacher and
Text 3. Pashyaitam Panduputranam Acharya Mahitim Jamum Vyattam Drupada Putrena Tava Shishyena Dhimata.
O my teacher, behold the great army of the sons of Pandu, so expertly arranged by your intelligent disciple, the son of Drupada.
Text 4. Atra Shura Maheshvasa Vimarjuna Samayuti Yuyutano Viratascha Drupadascha Maharata.
Here in this army are many heroic bowmen equal in fighting to Bhima and Arjuna, great fighters like Yudhana, Virata, and Drupada.
Tishtaketush Chekitana Kashirajascha Viryavan Puruchit Kunti Pujascha Shaipyascha Narapungavaha.
There are also great heroic powerful fighters like Drukshaketu, Chikitana, Kashiraja, Purujit, Kuntiboja, and Saiba.
Text 6. Yudhamanyuscha Vikranta Uttamauchascha Viryavan Saubhadro Dopadeyascha Sarve Eva Maharataha.
There are the mighty Yudhamanyu, the very powerful Uttamaja, and the son of Subhadra, the son of Draupadi. All these warriors are the great chariot fighters.
Text 7. Asmakam tu vishishte ye tan vibhuta tvijotama nayaka mama sanyasa samnatam tan pravimite.
But for your information, O best of the Brahmanas, let me tell you about the captains who are especially qualified to lead my military force.
Text 8. Bhavan Bhishmascha Karnascha Kripascha Samitim Jaya Ashvatama Vikarnascha Sodamattatis Tataivacha.
There are personalities like you, Bhishma, Karna, Kripa, Ashwatthama, Vikarna, and the sons of Somadatta called Purushrava, who are always victorious in battle.
Text 9. Anyacha Bhavas Shura Madarte Tyakta Jivitaha Nana Shastra Paharana Sarvayuta Visharataha.
There are many other heroes who are prepared to lay down their lives for my sake. All of them are well equipped with different kinds of weapons, and all are experienced in military science.
Text 10. Aparyatam tadashmakam balam bhishma pirakshitam paryaptam tveptitam etesam balam bhima pirakshitam.
Our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited.
Text 11. Ayaneshu cha sarveshu yatha pakam avastitaha Bhishmam eva pirakshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi.
All of you must now give full support to Grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army.
Text 12. Tasya Sanjayan Sarsham Kuru Vritta Pitamaha Simanadam Vinadyoche Shankam Datmo Pratapavan.
Then Bhishma, the great valiant grandsire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy.
Text 13. Tata Shankascha Peryascha Panavanaka Komakaha Sahaseva Peyahan Yanta Sa Shabdas Tumulo Bhavat.
After that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous.
Text 14. Tata Sveter Heyer Yukte Mahati Syantane Stito Matava Pandavascheva Divyo Shanko Pratat Muttuhu Pratat Matuhu. Sorry.
On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells.
Text 15. Panchajanyam Hishikesho Deva Dattam Dhananjaya Bodram Tatmo Mahashankam Bhima Karma Vrikotaraha.
Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta, and Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pandra.
Text 16 to 18. Ananta Jayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhistharaha Nakula Sahadevascha Sughosa Mani Pushpakau Kashyascha Parameshasha Shikandi cha Maharata Drishtayumno Viratascha Satyakish cha Parachitaha Drupado Drupadeyascha Sarva Sha Prithivipate Saubhatascha Mahabaho Shankan Tatmu Pritik.
King Yudhisthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadev blew the Saghusha and Manipushpaka. That great archer, the king of the Kazi, the great fighter Shikandi, Drishtajumna, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells.
Text 19. Sakosho Tatarastranam Hitayani Vyatarayat Nabascha Pruthivim Jeva Tumulo Vyanunantayan.
The blowing of these different conch shells became uproarious, vibrating both in the sky and on the earth. It shattered the hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra.
Text 20. Athavyavastitan drishtva Dhritarashtran kapitva cha pravite shastra sampate tanur udyamya pandavaha Ishikesham tata vakyam idamaha mahipate.
At that time Arjuna, the son of Pandu, seated in the chariot bearing the flag marked with Hanuman, took up his bow and prepared to shoot his arrows. O king, after looking at the sons of Dhritarashtra, drawn in military array, Arjuna then spoke to Lord Krishna these words.
Text 21 and 22. Arjuna Vacha Seneyor Upameyor Madhye Ratham Stapayame Ratham Stapayame Chuta Yavadetan Niriksheham Yotu Kaman Avistitan Kermaya Saha Yotavyam Asmin Rana Samutyame.
Arjuna said, O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here who desire to fight and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms.
Text 23. Yotyamanam aveksheham ya eteta samagataha dittarashtrasya turbute yute priya chikirshavaha.
Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil-minded son of Dhritarashtra.
Text 24. Sanjaya vacha eva mukto Eva mukto hishikesho gudakeshena bharata saneyo upayo madhye stapayitva rato tamam.
Sanjaya said, O descendant of Bharata, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties.
Tat Sat. Please forgive my mistakes. Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Mataji, the transcendental sound is so purifying and auspicious that it does not matter if you're not able to pronounce it clearly.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. It was beautiful. It was beautiful and you were doing very, very well. Thank you.
Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Gautama Mataji. That was lovely. Thank you. All right, let me just share my screen. Just give me a minute. Okay, I believe you can all see the screen now.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. So we have started from chapter 1, which is great. Because earlier when we started last year, it was from the middle of Bhagavad Gita. So of course, I mean, you know, all the verses of Bhagavad Gita are purifying and auspicious. But when you start from the beginning, it kind of gives you a nice background. So it's nice to like start from the beginning. So, right. So today we are doing 1.5. Drishtaketuschekitana Kashirajascha Viryavan Urujit Kunti Bhojascha Saibhyascha Narapungava. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. There are also great heroic, powerful fighters like Drishtaketu, Chekitana, Kashiraj, Purojit, Kunti Bhoj, and Saibhya. So there is no purport to this verse, but before we start discussing, let's just say a prayer. Om Agyanti Mirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamine. Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Shunyavadi, Paschata Deshatarine. All right, so there is no purport to this particular verse, but we will see what we can get out of this actually. So let's look at this first. Now here, as you've been seeing from the previous verses also, Duryodhan is pointing out the military strength of the opposite side. You've seen in the past few verses where he is giving out the names of the various soldiers and commanders that are on the Pandavas side. Now, when I was referring to one of the lectures by Prabhupada, and Prabhupada says that this actually, it is intelligence, because one should take the estimation of the enemy's strength. What is their arrangement? Imagine that's the enemy in front of you, but you're not aware of it. And you think that it's fine, I can manage. So it is a sign of intelligence that Duryodhan is actually looking at all of these soldiers that are coming from the opposite side, and he's looking at the arrangement, because then he can calculate and decide how he should counteract and how he should fight. Because see, one has to always look at both the sides. The bright side, if there is a bright side, there is also a darker side. So one has to always think that what if something goes wrong? And you have to plan for that. Like Prabhupada gives the example that a businessman cannot just think that there will always be profit. What if there is a time when there is no profit? So has he made some kind of contingency plan? So same way, Duryodhan obviously is doing all his calculations when he's looking at the army, that, what is the right thing to do? How should I fight? What's going to be my strategy? Now, another point here is that Duryodhan actually was extremely surprised to see this huge army from the Pandavas side. Why was he surprised? Because the Pandavas did not have any wealth, they did not have any kingdom, they had been exiled.
નારદ કે પણ થયું શું, શા માટે ભગવાનને મળ્યું છે? ધ્રુવ કે મારી માતાએ મને ઉપર રાજાના આસન ઉપર બેસવા.
I'm sorry, could everybody please just mute yourselves, because otherwise it's disturbing. Okay. All right, so sorry, I've lost track here. Right, yeah. So Duryodhan was surprised that, how come the Pandavas have managed to arrange such a huge army when they did not have a kingdom, they did not have power, they did not have money, they were in exile for such a long time. So he was not expecting what he saw, right? But what he forgot to calculate was that, Krishna is on the side of the Pandavas. And whether there is a huge army or no, wherever there is Krishna, there is victory. And again, in one of the lectures, Prabhupada is explaining that how Parikshit Maharaj compared his grandfather Arjuna. So he says, my grandfather Arjuna was like a little fish. And the entire army of the Kauravas, with all these big names like Bhishma and Dronacharya and Kripacharya and all of them, they were like the Timingala fish. I don't know how many of you have heard this word. Now, this comes from our Vedas, where it says that there is a fish known as a Timingal, which is so huge that it can actually swallow the whales. It's that big. So here Parikshit Maharaj is saying that my grandfather Arjuna was just like a little fish in front of these Timingal. However, he still won the battle. And how was that possible? Just because it was by the grace of Krishna. And we've all heard this phrase, probably. If not, then, remember this phrase. Rakhe Krishna mare Krishna rakhe ke. So if you have the protection of Krishna, then you don't need to fear anything at all, right? Okay. Now, another question that, we always speak about reciting the verses of the Bhagavad Gita because it is Krishna speaking and they are so auspicious. So here, by mentioning the names of these great fighters, what are we making any kind of spiritual progress? Why are we, so many verses, names of the great fighters are being mentioned, right? So here again, it is explained that anything that is in relation to Krishna, anything that's in relation to Krishna is considered to be auspicious, or it will give you that purity if you take these names. Once in a lecture, one of my friends actually commented today that once in a class, Suttapa Prabhu was talking about how in the pages of the Bhagavatam, sometimes there are verses upon verses of just the names of a particular dynasty. So, like the father, the children, and the grandfather, and it just goes on and on and on. And you're literally reading just these names. But he said that just think that these names have appeared in the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. That itself is glorious, because imagine the Srimad Bhagavatam is timeless, isn't it? It's going to be spoken for centuries. I mean, like I said, it's timeless. So I shouldn't even be giving time to it. And likewise, the Bhagavad Gita is the same. So just the fact that these names have appeared in the pages of the Bhagavad Gita, and it has appeared in relation to Krishna. So anything that is in relation to Krishna. Now, this is a very, very subtle form of philosophy, but it's interesting to understand this. Now, if you look over here on this diagram, just focus on Larry. Now, Larry is related to Emily, right? And Larry is also related to Debbie and Rajat and Ryan and whoever else. Now, because Larry is related or has some kind of relation with the others like Debbie and the others, that is why Emily will also indirectly have a relation with Debbie. See, I just thought it's probably an easy way to understand this. So Srila Prabhupada explains this verse, Anashaktasya Vishayan Yatharham Upayunjataha Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. So this is the instruction of Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So what we have to understand is that everything is Krishna's energy. The material world is also a manifestation of Krishna's energy. And in the Bhagavad Gita, in the 7th chapter, Krishna says, Bhumi rapona lovayu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti yamme binna prakritirastata. So yes, these material, these elements, they are separated, but they are still energy of Krishna. That is why in devotion, in Krishna consciousness, you do not disregard anything. And that's the Yukta Vairagya that Prabhupada is talking about. It does not matter whether it is a material thing. And many a times he used to give the example of the microphone. The microphone is a material thing. But because it is being used in Krishna's service, it is no longer material. And a very simple analogy. See the clouds that we see. The cloud is actually made because of, the sun, like the sun rays from the oceans, the water will evaporate and all of that. And then the cloud is formed like here. When the cloud is formed, it covers the sun. You cannot see the sun, right? So same way, when we are covered by this material nature or this material world, at that time, we cannot see Krishna when we are covered by this material energy. Same way like how when the sun is covered by the cloud, you are not able to see it. So here now on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Krishna is there. All the living entities are there, the soldiers, the commanders, the kings and the cousins and the grandfathers, all of them are there. The chariots are there. The animals that are taking part in the war are there. The ground is there. Now, to understand that all of this is Krishna's energy. It doesn't matter whether they are on the other side or on the Pandavas side. That does not matter because they are all Krishna's energy. Now again, why this understanding also? Krishna is absolute, right? So the way his energies will manifest is different, because the energies manifest in so many different ways. So it says over here that Krishna, when he descends, and this is a verse from the Bhagavad Gita 4.8, Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanartharya sambhavami yuge yuge. To deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I myself appear millennium after millennium. So Krishna is appearing to perform two different activities, right? So destruction and construction, both is required. Like if you're going to sow the seeds, you also have to pull out the weeds. It's the season now for gardening, coming soon, hopefully. And I'm sure if all of you are professional gardeners, I am not one, I'm not good at gardening at all. I do not have a green thumb at all. But I'm sure the others on this group who love gardening know this fact that if you are going to sow the seeds, you have to pull out the weeds at the same time. These two things go simultaneously, right? And here again, it is being described that when Krishna comes, both these activities, they are just different energies. They're just different manifestations of Krishna's energy, right? But they are Krishna's energy. And that is very, very important to understand. So he has come obviously to establish before we go there, just this verse, which is a very, very important verse. And Prabhupada quotes this very often, just the last two lines. So I will just quote the last two lines. Parashaya saktir vivitaive striyate svabhaviki gyana balakriyacha. So the translation goes, it is from the Upanishad, the translation goes, he does not possess bodily form like that of an ordinary living entity. There is no difference between his body and his soul. He is absolute. All his senses are transcendental. Any one of his senses can perform the action of any other sense. Therefore, no one is greater than him or equal to him. His potencies are multifarious, and thus his deeds are automatically performed as a natural sequence. So Prabhupada often would quote this Parasya Saktir, Vividhaiva Sriyate, saying that Krishna's energy can perform so many different kind of activities. The manifestations of Krishna's energy could be in different forms, but he is absolute. So whatever he does also is absolute. There's no difference. And sometimes it is difficult to come to that understanding that how do you view your enemy also as, Krishna's energy. But that's what one has to develop, that consciousness. Saying that, it does not mean that you do not perform your dharma. Now, obviously, we will discuss this further, that how Arjuna gets overwhelmed when he sees his relatives. And then, obviously, Krishna starts talking about why you have to perform your karma. But the main fact, just these verses, what we have to understand is that all of this is Krishna's energy. All of this that is happening is due to Krishna's will. We all know that not even a blade of grass will move without Krishna's sanction. So whatever is happening is Krishna's will. When we go further into the Bhagavad Gita, we will understand and realize why Krishna is willing this. So that'll come later. So we will not go into that now. I hope you are all with me till now. So what Krishna wanted to do was, like we discussed in the previous slide, that, he comes in, yeah, there's some echo. So he comes in order to establish religion and to take away a religion, right? So he wanted to gather all of these. There's constantly some sound, I'm so sorry. He wanted to gather all these demoniac personalities on the battlefield of Kurukshetra and kill them. Now, one may think that, how can Krishna be, we say that the Supreme Lord is all merciful. He is all loving. He's equal to everybody. These are the thoughts and the questions that will come to us. And fair enough, yes, these questions will come to us. But like we just discussed, that Krishna is absolute. Whether he kills somebody or whether he, he becomes a friend or he is protecting, it's all the same. In the sense that it's not exactly the same, but in the sense that all of these soldiers and all of these people who were fighting on the battlefield of Kurukshetra did get liberated. Reason being that they were in the presence of Krishna. Just because they were in the presence of Krishna, and Krishna willed this to happen. So all of them actually got liberated. Like we will, when we hear further about Krishna's pastimes, when he kills these various demons, and the most famous one, I think, which most of you will know, is the story about Putana. Now, Putana was a demon who came to kill Krishna with the thought, she smeared her breast with poison and wanted to breastfeed Krishna and kill him. But just because she came as a mother, although she had different motives, but she came as a mother and she tried to feed Krishna. Although Krishna killed her, she was given the role of a nurse, of a mother in the spiritual world. So yes, on one side, we are seeing that, she got killed, but that killing is not the same if you look at it from a material vision. So we cannot understand it from a material vision. That is why you need the Shastra Chakshu. That's why you need the spiritual vision. Like in our last class, we were discussing about how animal sacrifice, and there were some questions about, how can animal sacrifice be allowed? But then we discussed and we came to the conclusion that these animals that were being sacrificed were not really suffering. In fact, they were sacrificed in such a way that either they go on to get human forms of life, or they go on to get a younger body, even if it is an animal body. But they were, in a sense, liberated. So same way over here, Krishna has gathered all these demoniac people, obviously because he wants to establish dharma. He wants to establish Yudhishthir as the king, because Yudhishthir is righteous, Duryodhana is not. And there was a lot of adharma in those times, and that is the reason why Krishna came. That is the reason why this Kurukshetra battle was taking place. But think about this, that even the enemies of Krishna, even the demons of Krishna get liberation. So imagine what happens to the devotees of Krishna, to the friends of Krishna. Can you imagine what they would be getting in terms of when they go to the spiritual world? if once they surrender to Krishna, once they surrender to his plans, once the devotees take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, one cannot even imagine what their destination will be. So the pages of the Bhagavad Gita actually should encourage us to take shelter of Krishna. Obviously, that is what we'll come to eventually. But right from the beginning, you can see that, just being in the presence of Krishna. Obviously, some people will say, oh, it was all right for Arjuna and all of them. Krishna was physically present. But what we fail to understand is that Krishna is present with each and every one of us in so many ways. He's present in the super soul, in each and every body, in each and every living entity. He's present with all of us. He's present in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He's present in all the purports that Srila Prabhupada has so kindly given to us. And that is the reason why it is so very important for all of us to constantly take shelter of the verses. Sorry, 1 second. Haribol. So it's so important that one should take shelter of the scriptures that has been given to us, of the purports that Prabhupada has left for us, understanding them, realizing who we are, who is Krishna, what's what is our relation with him, and that way then taking shelter of Krishna. So it's not like that Krishna just spoke to Arjuna on the battlefield, or all this that was happening just for the people who were present there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be discussing this more than 5,000 years later. So the same thing that Arjuna was going through when he was on the battlefield, yes, we also go through in our lives. But like Arjuna turns to Krishna, we can also turn to Krishna. Okay, and just one last. So there are various names being given of the heroes, and I thought we'll just touch on that a little bit. Although I will be honest that Prabhupada does not talk a lot about all of them. And in one of the lectures, he says that if we were to describe each and every warrior, then the pages of the Bhagavad Gita would just, would be too much. But there is a book called The Characters of Mahabharata, and all these characters are described there. Because I have not got my references from Prabhupada's writing or his lectures, I'm not 100% confident that this will be exactly correct, but I have tried to do the best under the circumstances. So we start with, what was his name? Yeah, Drishtaketu. So Drishtaketu, it says, was the son of Shishupal. He was the ruler. He was also related to Krishna. And he fought in the Kurukshetra war on the side of the Pandavas. Chaitanya was the son of Drishtaketu. Kunti Bhoj, I think this one, I think we all know Kunti Bhoj was he had adopted Queen Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas. So he was Kunti Bhoj, and he was fighting on the side of the Pandavas. Purojit was the son of Kunti Bhoj. So in that sense, he was the brother of Queen Kunti, and so the uncle of the Pandavas. Now for Kashiraj, I found some references where in some places it is described that Kashi was divided into two parts. One was ruled by the father-in-law of Bhima, and the other was ruled by the father-in-law of Duryodhan. So this Kashiraj that we are talking about is the father-in-law of Bhima, and that's why he was on the side of the Pandavas. And there is another reference for Kashiraj, wherein it is described that he is the father of the three queens, Amba, Ambalika, and Ambika. So if any of you know more about these characters, please feel free after the session, we can discuss this more. But in terms of in our books, like in Prabhupada's books, I couldn't find a lot of details about this. And then Saibya. So in one of the lectures, Prabhupada said that Saibya, he belonged to Sibya. That's all that he said. And then he said that if we were to describe each and every character, then it would become too much. Now we all know that Bhagavad Gita is part of the Mahabharata. So obviously in the Mahabharata, these characters have been described in detail. And if one is interested, then one can obviously go and read, do your own reading of the Mahabharata and get to know these characters. But in terms of the Bhagavad Gita as it is, Prabhupada did not think that it is very important to describe these characters. It was more important to describe the principles and the philosophy of, who is doing what and why they are doing whatever. So that's actually, that's actually what I want to speak today. And I think, I think for this verse, this is all that I could say. But if there's any, it would be great if there could be some reflections. Of course, questions are welcome, comments. Your thoughts, anything. We've got a very, very quiet audience today.
I'll break that silence then, Mataji.
Thank you, Jolie Mataji.
Is the Mahabharata the same as this Srimad Bhagavatam? Because I am not very clear about these books.
No, the Mahabharata is not the Srimad Bhagavatam, actually. The Mahabharata is describing the entire Kurukshetra battle and, the Kauravas and Pandavas and all of that. It focuses on that. I am not authority on the Mahabharata, but this is what I understand. Srimad Bhagavatam actually is more pastimes of Krishna. So it is focusing on Krishna, his avatars, his pastimes with his various devotees. So Srimad Bhagavatam is more about that.
Right. Okay. Hare Krishna. It's kind of more detail of the Bhagavad Gita, yes?
Oh, well, you could say that. See, here, Bhagavad Gita is where Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. Whereas in the Bhagavatam, all of his leelas, all of his activities have been described much more in detail, not just Krishna's activities, but also the activities of his various avatars.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, lovely. Thank you, Mataji.
Also, Madhu Kumari Mataji, Mahabharata is a great epic of India, isn't it? Mahabharata.
Yes, that is why it is called Mahabharata. So Bharat and Maha, the great epic of India. Yes. Any other comments or?
Is it also connected with the Ramayana?
So no, these are two.
They're different.
Yeah, they're completely different because Ramayana is about Sri Ram, and that was in a different era, in a different time.
Oh, because when we sing Hare Krishna, we say Rama too. So I just wondered.
Okay, so
sorry, I'm not knowledgeable in that field. I'm learning.
That's fine. That Rama actually that we say has got a slightly different meaning.
All right.
Yeah, it has got a slightly. So in the Maha Mantra, when we are chanting, actually we are chanting to Srimati Radharani, to the energy of Krishna, to engage us in the devotional service. So that Rama that we are using is actually not Ram really.
It's Krishna.
Yes, Rama is more like it's the internal energy, and Rama also means that when you are Ramana, when you're enjoying, when you're in that mood. So enjoying means Radharani, because Krishna is happy, you're enjoying with Radharani, like that. So the Maha Mantra has got slightly different meaning, and in that Rama has got slightly different.
Haribol.
Any other?
Hare Krishna Mataji. I was told that Rama is Balaram. Is that right?
Yes, that is also right. That is also right. So
and sorry.
Yeah, go on.
Also, these characters, they were in a way in close proximity with the Lord, but in the, I think it must be about Canto 5, where all the descendants of the kings, as you were saying in one of the chapters, it's just names after names after names. But were they also in close association with the Lord as to why their names appeared?
Pramila Mataji, the fact that the names of these characters have appeared in the Bhagavatam in relation to Krishna's activities directly, or in relation to activities of one of his avatars. So
Okay.
that makes them that, you know, they are like, if you think about it, you know, in the Canto 8, it describes about Bali Maharaj. Now, Bali Maharaj comes from a demoniac family.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
but the pastime that he had with Vaman Dev. Now, Vaman Dev is an incarnation of Krishna, and the pastime that he had with Vaman Dev, Bali Maharaj is one of the 12 Mahajans, because he's completely surrendered.
Yes.
He
Yeah.
surrenders completely. Atma Nivedanam. When we talk about, you know, an example of Atma Nivedanam, that is Bali Maharaj. So you know, all of these characters, whether we think that they are demons, but you know, they are all come in order to facilitate all these leelas of Krishna and his various incarnations. They are not regular characters like me, you know. They are not.
Okay. Thank you very much.
No problem. And there is a question on the chat by Santosh Mataji. She said, could you please explain again why the battle took place? All right, now that is Santosh Mataji, that's, you know, that's a question that could be answered from so many different angles, right? The most important thing to understand is that it's not that Krishna or the Pandavas wanted the battle, because if you will see in the Mahabharata and if you will, you know, read the Mahabharata, there are various occasions when the Pandavas as well as Krishna try to not have the battle. So much so that Krishna, in the last phase, he goes to the kingdom of the Kauravas and he says, you know, even just give the Pandavas 5 villages. And Duryodhan says, I will not give them land that even a pin can prick, a needle can prick. Even I will not give them even that much land. So it's not like, you know, that the war was something that, you know, from the beginning, obviously, I mean, Krishna's plans are his plans, but what I'm saying is that it was a war which had to take place eventually in order to take out the weeds like we spoke about. And Duryodhan was a weed because he was a follower of adharma. He was not following dharma. He was not a king that was ruling the citizens in order to give them any benefit. That was not the case. And that is why Krishna wanted to establish Dharmaraj Yudhishthir on the kingdom. Now, why is that? Because why do you want a good king? The reason why you want a good king is because when you have a good king, not only are the citizens happy, but then the citizens can progress towards their spiritual identities also. Because once you are satisfied materially and you are happy, and the king is, you know, spiritual, like we've heard of in the Bhagavad Gita, it says Raja Rishis. So these kings were not just kings, they were rishis. They were well versed in spiritual knowledge. So he wanted Yudhishthir to come on the kingdom. So that's of course one of the reasons. Now somebody could say, you know, why do you need to have a battle for it? Because if Krishna wanted, he could have done whatever. And it's true, because when you go on further in the Bhagavad Gita, you will see in the chapter The Universal Form that Krishna shows that, you know, Arjuna, whether you fight or you don't fight, all of these people who are assembled on the battlefield will be killed, you know. So you just be the nimitta matra, you just be my instrument. So that could have happened, but here there are, like I said, so many angles. Lessons are being taught to all of us, even after 5,000 years, that if you go against the wishes of Krishna, then this is what is going to happen. If you do not lead your life in a dharmic way, in your, in a Sanatan Dharma way, then this will happen. So there are so many lessons that are being taught. And, obviously, adharma, which we spoke about. So Duryodhan was not, the society in general at that time, a lot of irreligiosity was spreading, and that's why Krishna had to come. And that's why this battle had to take place. Any other comments from the audience is welcome.
It's to clarify justice, really, isn't it? To show the people that this was so unjust.
Correct.
Something that belonged to these people, these brothers, were stolen, and they were told you can't even have a pin and drop in a piece of land for you guys. So
Yeah.
it was sheer injustice, and I think that's what the world is about. And it actually is showing you a lesson that this is not acceptable. It's not a good thing.
So like we said, there are so many angles. So obviously, if somebody is going to be like this, and he needs to be taught a lesson. He needs to be taught that this is not how one can behave. Further on, when we will go and read the Gita, then there are reasons given when one can fight or have a war. And one of the reasons is that if somebody takes away your land, somebody steals your land. So,
thank you very much, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
No problem. Does that help, Santosh Mataji? Are you,
Yes, I'm beginning to get the picture, because I'm relating it to our present day situation where the battle is going on in Israel and the Palestine. See, that was all, the territory they're trying to get back. So I'm just trying to compare, what is happening today could have taken place. The same thing happened thousands of years ago. The battle still goes on for, wanting to claim the land back.
Yeah. The problem is, like Prabhupada explained when he was here, and a lot of his lectures and classes, he said that our problem now is that we claim everything to be ours, but nothing is ours. We forget that everything belongs to Krishna. Now, obviously, at that time, Krishna was there to guide us, but he's there to guide us even now. And that is why in the Ishopanishad, the verse says, Isha Vashyam Idam Sarvam. That is, you only take what belongs to you. And the analogy that Prabhupada gives is, when you throw a sack of grains on the road, the birds will fly, come and eat the grains from there and fly away. They will not try to collect all the grains and say, I'm going to keep this for my mother, father, children, grandchildren, and so and so. You see, this is a tendency that humans have. We have more than enough. Prabhupada says that when he used to travel, and he says in places where he would go, like, Africa and wherever else, he says, people are saying there's not enough food in that, but there is so much land. There is so much land. It's why is there not enough? Because one group of people is trying to accumulate everything and the others are suffering.
Yes.
Because we are not following the principles of Isha Vacham, wherein everything belongs to Krishna, but Krishna is allowing me to take what I should take just to be able to maintain myself and my family, not for collection, not for hoarding.
And it's like, as Gandhi said, there is enough for everybody.
Correct.
And, it's all to do with greed, isn't it?
Yes.
Not need.
Yes.
And so Prabhupada also clarified that by saying that this country, my country, your country, I should have more than your, you guys suffer and I take it all. It's not on, because, everybody belongs anywhere in the world.
Yes.
And the land is there for each and every one of us.
Yes.
So why should we take it all and not give to the others or share?
Yes. And that is why Prabhupada was also, he would talk about the United Nations, and he says, they talk about United Nations, keep adding flags, but what is the point? Because there is no unity there. And which is why Prabhupada was so insistent that it is so important to spread Krishna consciousness so that people understand that everything at the end of the day belongs to Krishna. And also Prabhupada was also against democracy. He would call it demon crazy. He would never call it democracy. So because, you know, because obviously the problem here is that the people who have been chosen have come for the wrong motives. The people who are electing them are doing it with not enough information or knowledge, or for the wrong motives. So if everything is wrong, then how can a right come out of it?
Yes,
Hare
a lot,
Krishna.
a lot to think about. Thank you very much.
No
Hare
problem.
Krishna.
Any other questions or comments? If not, then we can stop.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
I was just thinking that not only are we human beings so greedy that they hoard for themselves, but we have this absurd situation where people destroy big piles of food for, you know, to artificially manage prices, whereas other people are getting hungry. So it's spiraled out to, there's no sense or logic now at all.
No.
You know, when we do that.
It all boils down to the fact that the only thing that everybody's thinking about is their own self. Everybody's become so self-centered, and the greed and lust has gone completely, it's just out of proportion. That's the whole problem. And it's not just the normal, it starts, you know, in the Bhagavad Gita and other places, it says that as the great leaders will do, so the common man will follow. So what are our leaders doing? Oh, everywhere you will see that our leaders are doing this. And that's why then everybody else does the same thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Mataji.
Sorry, any other comments? Amazing discussion. It's nice to have discussions like this. Because one person can speak on one verse for, like, you know, how much can you speak? So it's nice to have discussions, because then all of us understand better. So it's great. All right, if there are no further comments or questions, then maybe we can stop here. And hope all of you have a lovely week, and I shall see you most likely next Wednesday. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa
Hindu Evita Patitanai Pavane Vaishnave Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for the wonderful
Prabhupada.
class.
Hi everyone.
Very,
Thank
Mataji, for lovely class.
you.
Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna for wonderful class.
Hare Krishna,
Mataji.
Mataji. Thank you for a lovely class.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.